were like, oh, you should think about working in a bank. I'm like, I'm so glad I didn't do that. You know, so you know, you've got to watch that people around you and what's really motivating their desire to have you not do it. It's like when your parents don't want you to go travelling and they go buy a house. You need to buy a house. Yeah. We sold the house, right? We bought the house. I did it. Yes, Mum and Dad, I'm going to buy the house. I sold it about a year later and went travelling and spent everything. I had the best fun ever. And ignoring the advice of people around you is critical. And, you know, I think, I don't know.
Earplugs, really important.
If you
no, seriously. Naivety, really important.
Yeah.
On that note, we might go to some questions. We've got one over here. Thank you. Could you stand up, please? Thank you. We've got a microphone for you. Thanks.
I have a question for Sean. I have two questions. The first one is, how important do you think it is to know the right people to be successful in the fashion industry? And the second one is, how did you know Kylie Minogue? Sorry, okay. 3 questions. And the third one is, you still remember your first sales? And can you share us a little bit about that?
Firstly, no, you don't need to know the right people. What you need to be is yourself. And show passion. Tell the story. Tell the story. I don't know how many times I've told the story. And I'm sure it's changed from when it started. But you have to be yourself. And you will find that the right people will hunt you out. And you will discover them. And you will also discover the right people if you're true to yourself. So that's the first question. Second question, Kylie. No, didn't know her from a bag of, what is that line? Bag of potato chips or something?
Bar of soap.
Bar of soap, there you go. Goes with guacamole, doesn't it, really? And what was amazing, picture this, it was 2 in the morning, the phone rings, and some guy is on the phone, and he's like, hello? He goes, I work for William Baker and we're shooting next week Kylie's thing, and William's seen your stuff in one of the stores in London and he needs all the colours right now. And I'm like, what? I didn't even know who William Baker, I didn't even know any of that. I didn't even know who Selfridges was. How embarrassing. But those things happen if you're doing something good. And fate and actually the X factor. Everyone can have that X factor. The trick is you have to identify those opportunities and keep identifying them. That's the challenge. What was the third question?
What was your first sale?
The first sale. Guy on. Oh, it was 50 bucks. I'll never forget. I sold, we were at, the what? Yeah, our stuff is strange. But I never forget, he said, and it was $50, and he said, Sean, you should frame that. And I went, get out of here, I need the money. I'm not going to frame it. And then along the way, there are those things as well in your journey. You've got to collect people. You've got to have a scrapbook or something. You've got to stop and enjoy those moments. Because I wish I had that $50 today. It would mean a hell of a lot. I'm very, very fortunate that in my company, Nevin is the first employee of the company, and he's still here today after 9 years, and that's with me. Those things that I'm so humble for and proud of. But yeah, if you're going to build something, build it with good foundations and collect the memories. That's worth it.
Do we have any other questions?
Sorry.
Yes, up the back there. We've got 2 over here, and we might have to leave it at these 2.
Hi, I just want to talk about
could you stand up, please?
Oh, sure. Just want to talk about film and TV, ask about that, because it's a really interesting idea that when the retailers wouldn't pick up your underwear, it's the same thing with film and TV here. I think we need to get 27 countries in the world to import our television shows in order to sustain local production, something ridiculous. And if it's 26, they scrap it. How can we break that mould in local TV production and writing? And is there a way to do that? I know that's a big question.
Right. But yeah, that is a big question. I'm not sure if I can answer that. Certainly Dirt Girl couldn't have got up and running without funding coming from elsewhere. unfortunately, sometimes they like you to find money. The first person to come on board with Dirt Girl was the BBC. So, I mean, a lot of people have been saying go and look elsewhere and then come back, but that's not always such great advice, because sometimes the first thing they say is, well, who's your local broadcaster? And it is, you know, we do need our own stories, I think. But it seems to be, I would say it's generally optimistic. I'm not sure why I'm saying it's optimistic, but that's, has anyone else got any ideas? It's a big problem to solve.
I was just going to ask a question, just kind of leading on from that. In music and in film in particular, and in fashion, you know, it seems that once you have this international stamp of approval, they like it overseas. That's kind of what you need to get media here in a lot of cases, and sometimes to get support. Do you think that is fading away, that mentality, or is it still as strong as ever? What do you think?
The world's getting smaller, so the idea of bringing somebody to Australia, it's not necessary anymore. The world's getting smaller, and we just got to take that into account.
And you shouldn't need that stamp. I mean, that's cultural cringe, isn't it? Really, that we feel that you need a stamp from some other entity outside of Australia.
But in media, it's quite common as well.
Oh, actually, no, so true, so true. You don't make it in Australia until you've made it overseas. In the media, especially.
Well, what do you think, Modular guys?
I don't think it's disappeared, but I think it's definitely declined as far as music goes in the last 6 years. Like, I think like when we were going around trying to get people to put copy on shows in like 2003, we couldn't find people to release the record, and 2 years later, all of a sudden this sort of spotlight had shone on Australia because we had this little scene going down here that people, when sort of MP3 blogs and all that sort of stuff started spreading like wildfire, people were all of a sudden interested, and it sort of, in one fell swoop, in one sense, kind of justified a whole generation of musicians, and now, you know, it's kind of irrelevant for us.
Great. We might just take that last question here. Could you please stand up?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just wondering, when you go to the global, so you probably have a global competitors as well. So how do you get to the to stand up high and get noticed by those amongst of those global competitors?
So how do you stand out in a global market? Rob, do you have anything to say about that?
That's a tricky question. I mean,
Make the wonder jock.
I think Banana Pants, or that brand, is fantastic. I mean, I think it's a combination of being able to pick a relatively fresh idea just before it becomes engaging for the broader population. Now, I know that sounds really technical and weird, but you do get to a point, the more you work in something, where you get a sense of what's going to be popular before it is popular. And that, you know, it was probably going on with Andy Warhol and all his gang in New York back in those days, where they were sort of not realising they were creating it. And there was also a great quote from the Beatles once saying that they were, something like, someone else will remember it, was John Lennon, I think, saying that they were always in studios trying to do the next the next big thing, not realising they were the next big thing. So it's about hunger and passion as well. I think it comes out of really, really, really wanting to do it. You know, it's kind of like kids in our office when and they go, oh, you know, the client rejected that and they don't want to make that. And I go, well, why don't you just make it and put it on YouTube, but without a brand? Don't put a logo on it, right? Then if it gets popular, they'll come sucking up to you like you would not believe. You're going, oh, Christ, we should have done that. So, you know, for me, it gets down to backing your own belief, having a phenomenal passion for wanting to achieve it. And I think eventually you do start hanging out with other people who think the same way, and that notion of collaboration occurs, and then you become unstoppable.
Fantastic. I think that's a really great note to end on. Can we thank all of our panellists?